If anybody can hear us outside the room, please come in. We're starting the AI and Health panel. I'm Rachna Dayal, and my background is I'm a semiconductor engineer by training who worked in the semiconductor industry for 11 years, so very familiar with the chips that go into all the computers and devices. And then transitioned into healthcare, moved to Johnson & Johnson, was there for 11 years, and left J&J 2 years ago to start my own health tech VC fund focused on medical devices and health tech platforms, which obviously includes AI-enabled healthcare platforms. And today we have the luxury of having a very experienced and diverse panel with us today discussing this topic. Let's start with Rick. Perhaps you can start introducing yourself.
Sure. I'm not sure if that's working. So Stanford engineer. So I've been here in Silicon Valley since 1981. Worked as an engineer for a few years, then was an early employee at Healthion WebMD in 1996, where I first learned about data rights. It was a very successful financial engineering play. I then went into electronic health records and patient portals, and then I was the founding CEO of Gluco in diabetes, and now I am focused on medical imaging and AI, specifically in the ultrasound space with a company called Maui Imaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll mix it up a little. Perhaps we can go to Jeam next for the intro.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I guess we are between you guys and lunch, but it's been a very insightful morning, a very exciting morning. So I'm Dr. Jeam Shahdadpuri. I am a pediatrician and a de-addiction specialist. I am a physician executive, so jumped into administration very early in career, worked at Stanford, Northwestern, and Kaiser, and some of the hospitals here. Then soon became, had some C-level positions at Centene Corporation and Tenet Hospitals, Optum, and then soon got into the health tech arena, and now health tech and AI. So we've worked on a lot of government initiatives, state of California initiatives on opioid epidemic, and finally both the parties agree on the fact that it is an epidemic and it's a bipartisan agreement, which is great. So we had a lot of support in opioid and mental health epidemic in the state of California, and also had a role to play in making the Affordable Care Act for, it started in California and then became federal as Obamacare. So excited to be here and shed some light and learn from all you bright minds here.
Awesome. Dan, perhaps?
Great, thanks. Yeah, biomedical engineer by training as well. I spent a year at the FDA, went to a business school and medical school at Duke University, did an internship at the Mayo Clinic, and matched for a residency at Stanford, but never went. I ended up starting my first company. I spent a couple years at a venture firm, and then after that started Theranova, my medical device incubator. And our latest thrust, the topic of our last 5 startups, is capturing proprietary, clinically actionable data to power machine learning algorithms and AI, although the term AI in the medical field is much more constrained than you would see elsewhere, but we'll be talking about that.
And Todd, last but not least.
Hi, everybody. My name is Todd Irwin. I am the Chief Strategy Officer, actually, at a branding firm, global branding firm called Phaser. But part of what I do is fractional Chief Marketing Officer services, and one of my clients I work as a fractional Chief Marketing Officer for is Onpoint, which is a sponsor here, and it is an AI scribing platform, but actually an administrative AI doctor-assisted platform that helps transform medical organizations and help them become more efficient. So. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, as I said, it's a really diverse panel. You know, we all have our favorites in healthcare in AI-enabled solutions. My favorites are those which are bringing power to the patients, of course, you know, making patients as consumers more aware of what's being told to them about their health and how they can empower themselves to go towards prevention rather than just treatment when something goes wrong. But I would love to hear, you know, about one really promising innovation in healthcare enabled by AI that you as panelists like. And perhaps, Todd, we can start with you and then come back from that side.
Well, I mean, just I think listening to some of the other panels and just AI in general and its ability to transform our lives as human beings and its ability to transform organizations in general is incredibly exciting. And obviously there's a lot of fear around it, and everybody's talking about the fear, whether it's in music or it's healthcare or whatever. But that transformation is incredibly relevant for this sector, the healthcare sector. And I think that's incredibly exciting because of the issues that the sector has, not just with things like insurance, but specifically doctors and nurses and the stress that they're under. There's major pain points around the mental health of doctors, nurses, and medical operators. And if AI can come in and take some of the burden off their shoulders to make those organizations more efficient, then is an amazing thing. And it's something to be incredibly excited about. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, who takes care of the people who take care of us, right? And that's important. Jean, your take on this?
Yep. So AI in healthcare, I see briefly, I'll talk about 5 areas that I see a big scope and improvement. One is predictive analytics and treatment outcomes. So as a decision support tool for physicians and healthcare workers. It's going to actually predict the healthcare outcomes and risks and mitigate those risks by suggesting preventive actions, preventing hospital admissions, warning the patients for signs and symptoms so they proactively take care of it. Medical imaging and diagnostics is going to change, where not only is it going to do it more efficiently, quantum number in volume, but also more accurate. Based on the past trends and data that it digests. Virtual assistants, this is going to help both the healthcare providers as well as the patients. So imagine somebody with chronic disease, chronic conditions, with multiple medications, multiple appointments, multiple healthcare providers, multiple data points. Well, it's going to be a virtual assistant to kind of determine the lifestyle and help them along the path of prevention rather than crisis management. Drug discovery and development is a big one. So now the life cycle of drug going to market is going to reduce significantly because it's going to actually help with the discovery process of how a compound reacts with the target parts of the body and do algorithms which predicts and simulates data and outcomes. So it's going to reduce the life cycle of drugs coming out to market, which is revolutionary, right? For dementia, for Alzheimer's, for all these things that we don't have. India actually did that for COVID vaccines and simulated data. And now that they're post-COVID administration matching the data and outcomes, it's pretty accurate. So when you have to take a decision in a crisis mode, it helps to simulate the data and the outcomes. Personalized treatment plan, this is a big one. AI systems can actually analyze right from your genomics to lifestyle data and all your health records to actually determine what's the best care plan and treatment plan and lifestyle for you, and also include parts of holistic care like your meditation, activity, diet, yoga, etc., etc. So once the lifestyles are going to change, you're going to go into a total preventive mode, and it's just going to decrease the burden on the healthcare system, and then they only address what really needs to be addressed.
Awesome. Dan, your take on things.
Yeah, so as an engineer, I like the idea of anything that can be digitized in medicine and where you have big data you can apply machine learning algorithms and AI. I think the one that I like the most is radiology, of course. If I had a child going into medicine now, I would say stay away from radiology, please. We've had algorithms that are better than the doctor for 10 years, but the problem in my mind with most of this machine learning and AI in medicine, there's 2. One is getting access to the ground truth. And sometimes the data you have is better than the ground truth. If you can see images better than the physician, how do you prove that? That takes a long study to show that pixel turned into lung cancer, even though the physician didn't see it and the AI could see it. And then the next big thing is regulatory. For the FDA is really struggling with this. They're doing their best, but what they've come up with is something called a predetermined change control program. So you have to tell the FDA how your AI will evolve and constrain it to evolving in that way with the data sets that you call out, or you have to meet with the FDA and change your PCCP or your predetermined change control program. So they're trying to figure out a way to let AI do its thing, but they also want to constrain it. So I don't think you're going to see any of the revolutions in healthcare that you are seeing now in music and large language models. It's still going to be constrained by the FDA based on the FDA's concern over risk. But you will see things like radiology being massively disrupted in the near future once the data comes out, especially if you can show that the ground truth is the AI is better than the physician. It scares physicians too. I'm a physician. A lot of my friends they know it's coming. I have a pathology friend who said, we're doing studies now that are going to put me out of a job because they automatically scanning the images for signs of prostate cancer, and it's better than the physicians are. Physicians are human, so.
Yeah. No, and on that line, I think there's another area where, drug-to-drug interactions can be detected better by AI than, predicted by 5 different clinicians you're seeing if you're on multiple drugs for different things. That's coming as well. Rick, your take on things.
Sure. Also in radiology and medical imaging, I'm very excited, but not by what's happened so far. So far, there have been, by the way, 882, I just looked as of May, FDA cleared AI modules. 76% of them have been in the radiology and medical imaging business. So it's had a big impact there. But the more interesting area is yet to come. So all of those AI modules, virtually all, are based on pixels. Right, so the medical imaging equipment creates these images, pixels that are either JPEGs or movie files, and the AI gets trained on them. And in some cases, they're better than physicians. Certainly, let physicians go faster. But as the prior speaker talked about, exclusive access to data is really what's going to drive value. And so the raw data that's associated with creating those medical images, what happens before the pixel? Right, the CT machine generates all this raw data, and then they create pixels. In ultrasound today, with traditional ultrasound, there is no raw data per se. They go right to creating pixels. And a 5-second scan of data is about a 20 megabyte file. In the new version of ultrasound, which I represent a company called Maui Imaging, is doing, it collects for that same 5 seconds about 20 gigabytes of data. And only Maui knows how to interpret that data. That is an exclusive data set. So why create pixels? Physicians, have us bound by this pixels and images. It's going to be the AI modules that look at raw data. Another example of that is a company called Cardisio in Germany that's looking at EKG type data, but it's called vector cardiography. And it's the raw data that lets them make conclusions that nobody understands really why it works, but they've been able to train the models to make it work to predict cardiovascular failure.
I think FDA and other regulatory agencies are going to be challenged really hard because technology is moving way faster than regulations can keep up, and we're a highly regulated industry. Talking about regulation and talking about what the potential of a technology, where do you think we have to be careful with AI in healthcare? And why? And I think it's a question that has to be asked. Otherwise, we'll be looking at a lot of damage to patients, and that's the last thing we want. Todd, you raised your finger. Go for it first.
Well, I was going to ask Rick and Dan and Dr. Jean about what you guys are talking about, and this goes into the big pain point specifically in this sector, which is accuracy. Accuracy. Well, what I was talking about earlier when it comes to organizations and making them run more efficient, specifically what Onpoint does besides administrative AI for the full organization, but the doctor's note scribing, and notes are a big deal, getting those notes right. I was shocked to find out that doctors spend more than 40% of their day on notes, right? So that's an incredible amount of time. But the big pain point is accuracy. Accuracy of those notes. Those notes can be life or death, right? Seriously. And we all know about doctors' handwriting. So technology has helped fix that. AI can help fix that more. But just myself having been in brand strategy for 30 years, right? And having gone through the whole age of technology, and now it's the age of AI, which is incredibly exciting. But everybody thought at the beginning of sort of the age of technology that it was going to take over. The robots were going to take over. The technology was going to take over. Now everybody's saying AI is going to take over. But going back to the accuracy issue, right? There has to be the human element. It has to be technology, people plus technology, people plus AI. It can't just be the black box technology by itself doing the diagnostics or all that. I mean, and I think that's to the three of you. My question is, how is, and I apologize for asking the question, not the moderator.
There goes the
Yeah, but you know, how are you bringing together people plus technology to make this work? This is the beginning right now. We're in the infantile stage.
Could we go to this question in the end, if you don't mind, when we have time, and go through what I'd committed to with the panel first, if that's okay?
Go, Rachna,
Sorry.
go.
So coming back to the regulation side and how we need to be careful in healthcare, where should we be careful about AI in healthcare for the sake of the patients and the people?
Yeah, so one area, I was in a FDA pre-submission meeting recently, and I thought they did a nice job of asking us about the data that we used, that was being used for training this algorithm. And this was a diabetes-related company, and the data came from all these top academic medical centers. Well, when we did an analysis of the raw data based on their questions, we saw that it was mainly white, affluent individuals that had the rich data set that we could use to train the algorithms. And so it was a bit of an eye-opening experience to see that there were a lot of populations that were not covered. And so the algorithms in some ways are better for me, you know, your white 60-year-old male, than for other populations. And I think we just have to be attentive to that, to not making sure these AI systems serve only a small segment of the population.
I agree. That's been my pet peeve, because you're talking about a disease like diabetes, where, you know, people from Asia and Africa are, you know, very predisposed, genetically predisposed to it, and not having them in the database is such a huge miss.
Just to tie in what Rick said, and a little bit what he said, the whole thing is about how do you remove biases, right? And how do you remove all these not neutral databases, not neutral physicians taking biased opinions. If I see all African American population all day or Latino all day, the next patient that comes in, I'm already attuned to, well, he must have had this, he must have had this. And so my entire investigation panel gets biased for that, my diagnostics, my conclusions, my treatment plan. So how do you remove these biases and get the accurate outcome? So artificial intelligence and AI has actually adversarial models that you can run alongside of your deep learning models and start to sieve through some of those biases. And I think that technology is indeed out there. And now they're trying to sift through to even match the COVID data to see whether COVID was particularly impacting certain ethnicities, certain regions, certain age groups, certain genders. So all that data is coming out, but then if you remove the biases, I guess it'll give it more accuracy and more authenticity to the data outcome that comes through.
Awesome.
So people and technology has to go together, in other words.
Amen.
And also to your point, but on this question, I think in my experience with the FDA, the thing that gets them most comfortable if you have an AI or machine learning algorithm that is that makes them nervous is you have oversight by the physician. So I think the most of the things that have been approved so far are adjuncts to care. Cytek has automatic pap smear screening. They've had that for decades. But what that does is it finds pap smears that are completely normal, and it's 100% certain that it's completely normal, and it says you don't have to look at this. So the clinician, the pathologist, only has to look at the ones that in any way confuse the algorithm, which ends up being 20 to 30% of them. So the pathologist isn't put out of business, not yet at least. But I do think eventually it's going to get better and better, and there'll be less and less doctor supervision. There's even a robotic phlebotomy startup now that I know of. That's a robot that draws your blood. The blood will be then sent, and it'll be processed with not even sent, processed within the robot, which has the chemistry analyzer within it, and provide the results. That's not something I'd be willing to do right now, but who knows about our kids?
But David, with the consumers, if somebody had gotten a pap smear and gotten a report that read by a machine rather than read by Dr. So-and-so, I don't know how open patients and consumers are to that as compared to a process-centric thing like a blood draw, which anyway goes through a machine for analysis and results. So
I think it's a generational thing as well. I think many people in this room are not making any assumptions. I won't go there. But, we've grown up with going to people and AI coming in our lifetime. So we're more comfortable with people. I almost wonder if 2 generations from now, just like we had digital native kids who knew how to use an iPad better than their parents, that's probably going to happen to healthcare. And I think the way to save it is by having better data, more regulated approvals that are unbiased. So for our generation, I don't see this changing. But Jean, you're right. What is going to be the combination of people versus technology? We don't know the answer. Great question that you raised, Todd. Yeah.
It's about efficiency of the organization. I'll go back to that again. I mean, all of the healthcare organizations are so overloaded. If AI, which is the advancement of technology in general, can make that efficiency greater to a point where the organizations become streamlined, because no matter what, there's just not enough service out there for all the people that need to be serviced. And it's a major problem globally. There's just incredible. I'm incredibly optimistic about it, having just sort of stepped into it as we have all just stepped into AI. So
yeah. So just to what he said, the one thing you may have not touched on is the note's appropriateness for insurance industry's approval. Yeah. And so if the note can be tailor-made to what the doctor actually wants to say, which is palatable to the insurance industry, which then decreases about 15 to 20% of the load on physicians rewriting, resubmitting, patient waiting. Yeah. That is a good use of AI.
Yeah, and that's what Onpoint does. It's prior authorizations, the whole funnel from the beginning of the relationship with the patient all the way through to billing. And I think it's incredible the opportunity there to fix all that, because that is the bog in the system. Yeah.
Amongst others, yeah. There's quite a few others. You've got to have more transparency in how insurers actually agree to pay or not pay for certain things, and AI can enable that transparency more. So I think we're entering a very exciting era with more power to the patients, hopefully, and not the other way around. Coming to the last question, how many of you remember the news a few weeks ago, or maybe it was months ago, where Gemini spit out that our founding fathers of America were people of color? It's a creative error. The model's still learning, but that's the kind of error that healthcare cannot tolerate, because you're talking about people's lives and health. And so this leads that into Gen AI. And how do you feel that Gen AI is poised to disrupt healthcare? Not just AI, but actually generative AI. And where should it go or not go? Anybody who wants to go first?
Everybody's looking at me.
I'll start it off and then you continue. One place where I see a big use is training in the education, in the medical schools, in the nursing schools, in the MA schools. Training with simulation, training with outcomes. So you put in a certain amount of data. Just take COVID, for example, and you take all the stats, because we were in this over stat collection mode during COVID, and all the data companies were collecting all kinds of data. Now they have this huge database, big data, that they have to throw in and now get some answers like, can it come again? How bad would it be? How are we well prepared before it hits us? So simulating scenarios like that, and then even using drug discovery programs to see what drugs would work, what vaccines would work. I think that's one big use. Training for all the medical professions intelligently. So say I was supposed to go for a gallbladder surgery. The resident here doesn't know I have a heart condition, a knee condition, or whatever, and he's doing the surgery in a real-time 3D image of mine and then seeing what complications he could have hit or not hit and navigate through the thing, and then just puts me at a better outcome when he's actually operating. Scenarios like this, I think, are going to surface if they've already not surfaced yet.
Awesome.
And I think it goes back to the panel before this too. We're talking about entertainers, musicians specifically. I think with healthcare, if the doctors and the nurses can get involved in the training of the large language models, right, to make them smarter. Because if you look at entertainment right now, you look at specifically music, the artists that are rising to the top are the artists that have adopted the technology. So the doctors have to do the same thing. They have to go in and adopt the technology for it to work. We need the smartest minds to come in and help code the code, so to speak, right? It's incredibly important. I do think, again, you know, what's incredibly exciting is that this really can solve the major pain points in the healthcare sector. And, you know, we're looking at the stress on doctors right now, which I am blown away by. Even like the suicide rates among doctors and nurses is incredible. If we can get this directed, and I think this is what doctors can do, towards safety first, and so doctors and nurses can focus on what they focus on best, which is patients, right? Because right now,
first.
that's where it's, what's that?
Sanity first.
Sanity first, absolutely, 100%.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
And the reason why I looked at you, Todd, is I think your spaces where generative AI and large language model type innovation is applicable. I don't think it's going to happen in the actual interaction with the patient and patient care because of the FDA constraints. But for the back end, note taking, billing, there's 2x number of billing and coding people in the industry than there are healthcare providers, if you take into account physician assistants, nurses, and doctors. So that's a huge waste. I know a couple startups that are looking at note taking and then using the notes that have been optimized for billing and then billing for codes that should have been captured but aren't captured. So.
Right, back to care. I mean, doctor, you know, there's a complaint now that people aren't going into the industry anymore. They're not studying medicine anymore because the experience sucks, right? So, all right, if we can make the experience for doctors better, if this can do that, I mean, that's transformative. That's the whole idea. You know, make the experience for them better.
Yep.
They just want to help people. Everybody wants to help people.
Yeah, and I think
right?
We really want to help.
cutting all that administrative nightmare down is going to help immensely, so that doctors can do and nurses can do what they prefer to do, which is interact with patients in a meaningful, efficient, and effective way. It's not about replacing them. It's about, and as there's more and more data available, it's going to be more and more complex to make these decisions, and that's where AI can assist, not replace. You know, I pitched Vinod Khosla a couple of years ago on a company, and it's like, oh, all the radiologists are going to be gone within 3 years. No, they're going to be able to operate more quickly, more effectively, more efficiently. They're not going to be gone.
Well said. One area where I think Gen AI is going to make a huge difference, if you look at the field of genomics/DNA, that analysis in the hands of the consumer, the patient, for wellness, prevention, longevity, but working from, it's coming from their, you know, inner need to be healthier longer, and then collaborating with the health systems, leveraging that data. I think it's a power shift. Up until now, we've really seen power in the hands of the institutions. Gen AI and AI have the ability to shift this power back into the hands of the patients, where it should always have stayed, actually, to be honest. They were never well informed. They will be better informed. So it's an exciting time. Institutions will be appended. I think some of them, the others will survive. The ones that can evolve will survive. I really enjoyed hearing you know, thoughts from the panel. Anybody wants to go back to the question from Todd one more time before we end this? Please do. People versus technology, people and technology kind of question.
We got to support Todd. He's our co-panelist. So just imagine this, right? Healthcare workers, consumer, patient, any of us in the room here. First of all, if I give you the stats of mental health prevalence, the number of people of us in the room. So imagine if you have your genomics data, right? That tells you all about what you're prone to, what you're at high risk for, what your family history is. That already is defined like my structure. What am I at risk at? Now it monitors my wearable data, my my medical test data, my healthcare outcomes, and it trends it. And now I'm writing or doing activities or not doing activities or not sleeping well or putting on weight. It's monitoring all of that, and then it takes multiple data points. So in our technology that we have that I'm going to present tomorrow on mental health, we also have daily journaling as a person who does daily journaling or speaks into the phone. So it captures the voice, the tone, and the modulation and trends it over time. So the moment all these data points show that you're going downhill, it's triggering and saying, hey, do you want to talk about it in the community and the forum that you have enrolled in, or get in touch with your friends and family circle? And so now you're writing, yeah, maybe. So I'm feeling dumps, mom, right? And then suddenly you get this engagement from community, from friends and family that lifts you up. And now it's putting on a track where it says, hey, let's now work on prevention and let's prevent the crisis management. So the amount of suicides, attempts, suicide rates, overdose rates, I mean, it's becoming such a big problem. In California, you see it in SF and LA, that technology's got to help it. There's not enough ambulances and physicians and nurses to help these people.
Good point.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a movement. I think this industry is going to rise up, and AI is going to help it transform itself. At least that's the opportunity, without a doubt.
And people want the personal touch too. To your point about the black box, right? People don't want to go in and interface with a black box. There's a tie for us, particularly with elder care, that there's this for some of them. That's their own one. Some of their main social outlet is meeting with the doctors and the nurses. So having a robot roll around their mental, you can imagine, would have a big impact on their mental state. Not having that interaction.
You know. Autopilot for flying planes has been around forever, but at the end of the day, when you got on a flight to come here, if you did, there's still a pilot. There always has to be a pilot. So I think there's something there when it comes to people plus technology and AI, and especially in healthcare. The people part is always going to be the most important part, no matter what. This is a tool that is going to make it better for us. That's why I'm excited.
We're doing it for the people in the end. Otherwise, why are we adopting AI?
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you so much. I think we're on time. This was a very lively panel. It steered from its course, which is fun because it made it authentic. Thank you so much.